Welcome, everybody, to session two. We had a wonderful kickoff earlier and a wonderful session one, and those recordings are available in the Discord channel under events. And they're particular, you can go to kickoff or you can go to session one and watch the recordings. Excellent. So we have quite a bit going on today. Want to thank our sponsors here, because it would not be possible to get this many women together in Discord to play games and network and learn about each other without our sponsors' help. So I want to take a moment to thank Cyber Jitsu for all the volunteers and for being here today and everything they do all year long. And I want to thank SimSpace, our gold sponsor. SimSpace is not only a gold sponsor, but they are also our jersey sponsor. So big thank you to SimSpace. Silver sponsors Microsoft and Tenable, as well as Archon for the jerseys. Our media partners, UDA, Loop, and CyberWire. And our game partners today, Google, the US Cyber Range, SimSpace, ICS Village, Winja, Sands, and SecureWorks. Fantastic. All right, we have a nice lineup for the next few hours. We're going to start off by, let me introduce you to Jennifer Cox. Jennifer Cox is the security engineering manager from Tenable, and she's going to be discussing with us why you should leave that exclamation mark in the art of choosing you at work. I'm really looking forward to this, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us today.
How are you? You're very welcome. It looks like since I switched rooms, it won't allow me to have my Wicked6 background. So you can enjoy instead my giraffe, who is my celebrity that I usually keep.
I like your giraffe. He's pretty cute. Have you started
At the beginning of COVID, when we were all that little bit anxious about sharing our screens and, having to have the full face of makeup on it, which I don't, but that was a great distraction. People always wanted to look at the giraffe, and it was a nice ease into, 8 hours a day on camera. So we'll share that with everybody then today. So it's lovely to meet you, Jessica. I am excited to get going. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Absolutely. All over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So what I'm going to talk about today, as the heading says, why you should keep that exclamation mark in. So the art of choosing you at work. Something I have a great passion for is, well, all things women in tech, whatever area they're in. I'm in cybersecurity, but I started in tech support and covering pretty much every aspect of technology, from phone systems to servers to networks, the whole lot then from there. So when we talk about the exclamation mark, I think it's a big thing for women. If you even just Google women and exclamation mark, you'll get article after article after article explaining why it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. So before I get into it in great detail, I'll just do a quick little intro on who I am, what I do. So I work for a company called Tenable. It's a cybersecurity company. I've been working in tech now for 16, nearly 17 years, 6 years with Tenable. I have almost always been the only woman on my team in a technical role. That has thankfully started to change. I think the first time I ever worked on a team with another woman would have been 4 years ago. So it's changing, not as fast as I'd like, but it's getting there. My background is, and the studies are in things like psychology and theater studies, so not even remotely related to tech, which I guess is why I often enjoy doing things like this, getting the opportunity to talk to people and get really involved in what's going on and not always just do the behind the computer stuff from there. So why you should choose this exclamation mark at work. So for a lot of women, the exclamation mark is something that we do automatically, but it's also an apology for our behavior in some ways. So what we do is, why do women use it? We use it because it's a means of expression. I think in the very beginning, we would have used it as a means to make sure that the message we were communicating was the right message. So if we were excited about something or we were angry about something, the exclamation mark came in. If we were saying thank you to somebody, instead of putting a full stop and risk them thinking that you were being moody, we put an exclamation mark in to show people that we were like, thank you, this is great, or hello, because we're expressive people. And it's good to be expressive. It's good to embrace your personality. It's good to be different. I mean, there's a lot of talk at the moment about diversity and the need for diversity in all sectors. But of course, today we're focusing specifically on the tech sector. So if there's a need to be diverse, why would you suppress your personality or suppress your excitement or suppress your emotions and your feelings about things? That's something that we do really, really well. That's something that we do that's really, really important. And that's something that we do that has been seen to change the way the world works, even in the last couple of years. So exclamation marks and emojis. So I picked some of my favorites there. My favorite is absolutely the strong arm. That's probably my emoji of choice at the moment, because I spend a lot of time in chat groups and in sessions with women, and even I just wish we had one on LinkedIn so that I could really express how I feel when I see women succeeding, be it professionally or personally. But that doesn't make me any less of a human or less professional because I use those things. The expression is something that's important in getting your message across and helping people to understand where you're coming from. It represents your personality, it represents your individuality, the emotions that you're feeling at the time. I don't know if you can recall back when we had text messaging first, and you would be writing a text, you didn't have any emojis, or right before you used to create emojis using colons and brackets. It was very easy to be misinterpreted in things that you were saying. And of course, we wrote text messages by one letter at a time. Predictive text wasn't even a thing in that stage too. The joy of having things like emojis being introduced meant that I wasn't at risk of being miscommunicated. I think in the past, people have assumed that we're adding all of these exclamation marks and these emojis and these characters to our texts because we somehow need to excuse our behavior or to make absolutely sure people understand us. That's where it may have begun. And I think that's where the conversation started, when people judge for doing it, judge it as being unprofessional. But now it's completely different. It shows that uniqueness. It shows the difference between individuals and even between companies and such from there. So I used to work for a company before, and it was my job. I was working in support, so I would reply to emails, answer phone calls and whatnot. And I remember specifically having a phone call with a C-level man who was really quite irate, shall we say. Not the words I probably would have used at the time, but he was really, really hot-tempered at the particular time. He had some systems that were down. He was not a happy camper. And I took his call, and I was working with him on the phone for not a very long time. It was something that we managed to resolve relatively quickly. During the conversation, brought his temperature down, got his issue resolved. He went about his business. And then I had to send a follow-up email. So I sent a follow-up email in which I needed to CC my boss in, because this particular issue was something that had been escalated and my boss was aware of it. So I CC'd my boss in the email, said, dear Mr. Customer, here's the link to follow up on the conversation we had earlier, and then put a smiley face at the end of it. Now, this was at least 10 years ago. And I sent a smiley face because I had had a conversation with this customer. I had talked him off the edge. By the time we got to the end of the call, we were on good terms. We were, he was a little bit more relaxed, and he felt like I'd helped him, and we'd made that kind of a connection, something that women are particularly good at doing in a very short space of time. My boss couldn't see the conversation that I had beforehand, but my boss saw the email that I sent with an emoji on it. Shortly after that, what followed was an email from HR telling everybody never to use emojis or never to use exclamation marks in professional emails after that. So I actually took it to my boss and to HR afterwards and showed them the email that I got back from the customer in response to the message I sent, which was from the customer saying, thank you so much for your time today. So it was easy to misinterpret the email that I sent, that my boss only saw one part of the discussion. Looked like I was, what in his opinion, it looked like I was being unprofessional sending an emoji. But in response to that emoji, I got an email from this C-level customer saying, thanks for the help today. It was great to meet you. Hope we'll work together again soon, with a winky face on the end of it. So I got great pleasure in going around and showing my boss that and saying, there's a time that it's called for. And it just helps to emphasize who I am and the way that I work. I mean, you'll always see me if I'm in a chat and I'm saying hello to people, I will always use an exclamation mark after it. Because if I see you in person, I will say, hello. I won't just go, hello. So it has to be, it has to reflect who I am. And I think that there's a time and a place for that. So I guess the bottom line for that particular conversation for me is that there's moments where it's important. It's always important to be yourself, but there's moments in particular where there's real value in being yourself and embracing who you are and doing things in a way that is true to you. Because at the end of the day, you're employed by the company that you work for because you are who you are. You make good connections with your customers because you are who you are. You succeed in the things that you do because you are who you are. Anybody can be a textbook employee, can be another robot in the machine, but you don't have to be. And the things that make you successful and the things that make you achieve and move on to your further goals in life are those things that make you different. And my dad always says, people buy people. They'll always remember. I'm sure if you've ever been on to somebody about support, or you've ever had a conversation with somebody, be it on the phone or in the email, especially an email, if somebody sends something back and it has an emoji on it, you're more inclined to soften to it because they've shown a human side than if they are sending you an email that says, to whom it may concern, and you're sincerely at the bottom of it. I think the days of using those kind of expressions are long behind us. And there's a true value in being a human being and relating to other human beings in the same way then from there. I mean, I see actually in work among my own team. So I have 3 teams, UK, Ireland, and then I have a team in the States that works globally. And we would almost, at least once a week, we would have entire conversations completely using animated GIFs or memes. And I'd like to say that that's unusual, but it's not. And it's really a great way for me to express how I am and for them to express how they are and feel relaxed. And it's kind of like recreating the office space when you're all together and you're having a bit of banter and a bit of jokes. It's definitely more true to each of us as individual characters than it is in a typical standard text message. I mean, if we want to have a serious conversation, we take those things away and we have our serious conversation, but we need to also embrace the sides of us that are the most human too. I also find that things like this, using emojis, using exclamation marks, using GIFs, using memes, whatever it is, tend to bridge that age gap. I mean, I'm in my 40s now. I've been working in tech for a while. Well, I've been working for a while. I'm working in tech for a while then as well. And there's plenty of people that I work with that are older than me, not as many older than me as there used to be, but I'm plenty of people working with me that are younger than me. And I find that using these additional tools to help to communicate with everybody sort of bridges that gap and brings everybody closer together. And then when we talk about it being unprofessional, I always think about Colin and Cuthbert, the caterpillars. So for anybody who doesn't know who that is, there's 2 stores, Marks and Spencer's and Aldi. Marks and Spencer's have Colin the caterpillar and Aldi has Cuthbert the caterpillar. And if any of you have been following it, even just Google it, you'll see plenty of articles on it. You'll see the Twitter conversations. There was a court case where Marks and Spencer's took it against Aldi because they said they copied their caterpillar. That may or may not be true, but what followed from there was some really entertaining conversations on Twitter, on the professional business account Twitter of Aldi and business account Twitter of Marks and Spencer's, and then of all the other retailers that got involved in the conversation too. I mean, we all know how famous Wendy's is for their kind of conversations, but with this particular example, there was lots of expression and jokes, and it made the company more human and people related to the company more. And I don't think that there's ever any harm in that. I found one little tweet, I had a look at it this morning. And there it is, where we have the Marks and Spencers. Aldi asked Marks and Spencers to get on board and do a fundraiser, a Caterpillar fundraiser. So they were basically bringing back Cuthbert after the court case. And they said for everyone that they sell, they were going to donate the proceeds to charity, and they asked Aldi to get involved. So Aldi couldn't resist the urge to bite on that one, still not letting them have their Colin Caterpillar cake. But winky face. So, you know, when this is following a court case. They could be seen to be being really serious and bitter about the whole thing. That winky face changes the tone of the entire conversation, makes Marks and Spencer's human, makes Aldi human, makes all of the people watching it human, and suddenly everybody's on the same level. It's no longer me and the big business. It's all of us together as a part of this conversation. And I think that's invaluable, and that bridges the gap between businesses and individuals, between age, between interests. It doesn't really matter. Everybody gets closer together, and everybody got on board with the Colin the Caterpillar cake war as such then from there. So let me go to my next one. One sec. So this, you're probably going, why do you have fireworks on screen? What I wanted to do, I'm a big believer in having slides that don't have a lot of text. I always think pictures sit with people a little bit better from there. And this, for me, I was trying to find something that represented somebody's individual light. So what I wanted to talk about in this one is that you do you. It's really important when you want to succeed in your career. You want to do well professionally or personally, but we're talking about professionally as such today, is that you see the value and keep the value in the things that made you got you to where you are so far, and will continue to get you further down that line from there. And that is you. When people weed through CVs, as I have done many a time, and then do interviews and then eventually make their candidate choices at the end of it, we're not weeding through CVs that are exactly the same as each other. We're not looking at people who look and sound and behave exactly the same as each other and then just randomly picking one. That whole process is down to choosing the right person for the role, where skills are a part of it, but they have to fit the team, their personality, the way that they work, their experience in the past. All of these things come together, but we choose you for the role because it's you that we want in the role, not somebody who's generic. And so it's always important to remember, and if that's the only mantra you take away from this, is that you do you. Don't ever apologize for being who you are. So something that comes up a lot, and I've heard, I do a lot of mentoring, and I'll tell you a few stories about some of the mentoring as I go along. But one thing that comes up quite a bit, especially among women in the workplace, is where they have let's say professional jealousy among employees. So where they'll be told to tone it down. Don't work so hard. Don't do so much. Don't learn so much. Don't work so late. All of these things that we may choose to do because, I mean, I know I love my job, so I could quite often be found still sat at my computer at 7 o'clock at night, pottering away, doing things because I love it. But having a colleague telling you to slow down, don't respond to that. Don't give it the energy. If you're doing something and you love it, if it's good for you and you're enjoying it and you're doing well and you're succeeding, don't have somebody tell you to dim your light. It's really important that you know who you are, know what you want to achieve, and you push forward with that. Don't give them your energy. Use your energy doing something that you enjoy. Use your energy pushing forward towards that goal that you have, the things that you want to achieve. Do not give your energy to people who just want you to dim your light. They don't deserve it, and use it for something else. I know that if it's something that you struggle with, you know, trying to fit in with the team, and women as a general rule, and I've seen it in the past, tend to overachieve within their role. So if their role is measured by a monetary value, they've got a target, or they have to hit a number of, close a certain amount of cases, or they have to do something, you know, that is measurable, they'll often do more than their colleagues in order to prove their worth or prove their value within that particular role. If you're doing that and you're enjoying that and you're happy with that, carry on. Don't have somebody tell you to do less because they can't keep up with you, or they're not willing to put in the same work as you, or they're not enjoying what they do as much. You do you, and don't have anybody try and drag you back when you're moving forward. There's this project that I used to do with a lot of mentees that I've worked with, and especially when they're finding that they're kind of stuck in a rut and they're trying to move forward or they want to succeed with a particular goal. Could be a personal goal, could be a professional goal. It's usually a professional goal where they're like, I want to get promoted, or I want to win an award, or I want to go for a different job, a better job with a different company. And they're trying to figure out how to get out of the rut that they're in to do it. And we do this thing that I call the Yes Project. It's really, really simple. Make notes if you must. But basically, what you do is you say that you're going to say yes to everything. So I have a couple of different stories on this for the sake of time. I'll come back to it at the end if I have time. I'll come back to some of the other ones. But for me, what I did is I always wanted to get involved in all things women in tech. And about, I think it was 2018, I was talking to one of my colleagues about it. I was coming to the office, which was 2 hours each way. So a 4-hour drive a day, 4 boys at home. And my husband was working at the time then as well. I also like to study a little bit on the side. There's a lot of things happening, taking up time. And I wasn't sure how I was going to find the time to do any of it. So what I had decided to do, or set myself the target to do, is that if anything crossed my path, I would say yes to it. I wouldn't go out to find things to fill time I didn't have. But if something crossed my path, I would make it work. I would say yes to it. And in my case, I set that specific to things that were women in tech. And what I did was not just because people weren't obviously just going to pop out of nowhere and ask me to get involved in things. That meant that if it was in my LinkedIn feed, that there was some sort of an event that I could go to, whether it was networking or it was technical or whatever it was, social, that I would see if I could get to it, whether it was handing out leaflets at an event, whatever it was. As it came up naturally within my social media, within my email, when people reach out to me across any network that I'm already involved in, I said I would say yes to it. I would try and get involved in it. So I started to do that at the beginning of, was it 2019? So January. And in doing that, you'd be surprised the doors that will open. So for me, in doing that, by the time I came to September, so just 9 months later, I ended up as one of the main stage speakers in the convention centre in Dublin. If you've ever been to the convention centre in Dublin, it's the one that looks kind of like a Coke can leaning on its side. Google it. It's quite a cute building. It's across the road from where my office is. But I ended up on the main stage speaking in front of 1,200 people there about work-life balance for women in tech. And that's what happened in the space of 9 months by simply saying yes to the things in the area that I wanted to succeed in. I have seen people, I have a colleague who's really quiet and really shy. I've mentored both men and women. Really quiet, really shy, have been working in the same role and not a featured role, shall we say. It was in analytics. So generally, I'm sure you don't all immediately go, who works in analytics in our business? Whereas if it's somebody in marketing or somebody at the customer forefront, you'll think of them straight away. But anyway, he works in analytics. And he said, I want to get promoted. And I said, well, what's your ultimate goal? And he said, well, my ultimate goal is I'd love to win one of the company awards for doing great work, for being, good at what I do, be recognized for that. And he's like, I can't see me ever doing that. I was like, okay, so let's work on this. Let's see what we can do. And this was right in the height of COVID, where we were all locked down to small limits with regards where we could travel, things we could do, people we could interact with. But I set the yes goal. Now, if you're going to do this project, obviously, be safe. Don't do stupid things. Don't agree to meet people in dark corners somewhere. Be sensible about it. But this particular individual then said, we had agreed that anything that comes up in work, you get asked to, they need somebody to cover a meeting, they need somebody to create a document, they need somebody to get involved in another project, albeit not related to your role, but any of these things that come up, that he was going to say yes to it. We started slow. We started with teeny tiny things because he was so intimidated by the idea of where it may go. And then we built it up from there. Within 18 months, this individual had a promotion, and on the 18-month mark won his award for his work that he does. And then he was just on the cusp of his second promotion at that stage. It's a teeny tiny change, but it can make such a massive difference to your ability to succeed. And it keeps you just that tiniest bit outside of your comfort zone all the time. Not so much that you're going to be terrified every day, but just enough that you're going to grow every day. And like I say, I call it the S project. I think it's a really, really simple thing to do. Once you have a very clear goal, it's easy to know what you're saying yes to. And I'll give everybody my contact stuff at the end of this. So if they've got any questions about it, they can get in touch. Okay. So this is, I want to go from there then onto imposter syndrome, because what I've discovered a lot when I'm talking to people, especially in mentoring, is that this comes up for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're at the beginning of your career or whether you're at the height of your career, everybody suffers from it. And more importantly, I used to think this was just a woman thing. I always thought it was just me first, which I think everybody feels like that. And then when I asked all of my female friends, they say they feel it too. But I'm one of 6 children. I have 2 brothers. There's only 3 of us that work in tech, me and my 2 brothers. And I always thought, because my brothers love to swan around the house like they own everything and they know everything, that this wasn't something that was a problem for them. But when I discussed it once, within earshot of my younger brother, he was like, no, this happens to all of us. I'm often waiting for somebody to come and tap me on the shoulder and go, what are you doing here? How did this happen? So that was a relief to know that it wasn't just me or just women that suffer from it. Imposter syndrome is so hard because the enemy in that scenario is you. You're the one that is causing the problems for yourself. You're the one that's doing the second guessing. And I found this particular picture and I thought it was the best representation of it for me in 2 ways. One, I feel like I stand out so obviously as not belonging here or going to get caught as the green gummy or the green jelly in this particular picture, but also that there's always somebody waiting to take my place. This is something that, I have regular, what you call it, comes in waves, regular moments of, uh-oh, what am I doing? And then I have moments of, no, I'm good. I got this. I'm great. I can, do what I need to here. And we always feel that there's this need to be perfect all the time. And if you're not perfect all the time, then maybe you don't belong where you're at. Your lack of perfection is one of your key selling points. Perfection is not a good thing. Perfection shows that there's no room to improve. Perfection says that you're not willing to listen, that you don't want to do better, that you haven't got anything else to bring to the table. Being imperfect and embracing being imperfect means that you're willing to grow, you're willing to learn, you're willing to listen. And that's way more important than being spot on with your presentation or having the right background work on your presentation, as mine has not done today. Or when you come, like I did a dry run of this presentation yesterday, and about 3 minutes into it, I think that the only words that were coming out of my mouth were floofy. It just was not happening. It just wasn't coming out at all. My sister found it very entertaining, of course, because it was her I was doing the run through with. Some days things are going to go like that. Some days they're going to suck. Some days things are just not going to work. And some days you're going to go, what am I doing? Look at all these amazing people around me and the things that they're doing. I do not belong here. And on those days, just take a big deep breath and remember that you're there because somebody saw you as the individual who would bring a specific characteristic, a specific trait, a specific skill to the team that you're in. They saw you as being valuable for you. Again, not the generic robot, not someone who's just typical for that role. There's something about you that they chose to put you in that position. And it's your skills are valuable within that position too. Take a deep breath and stay true to yourself. The most important thing I find that it can do when it comes to imposter syndrome is never to fib about it. I always have to remind myself what I've done, where I've come from, what I stand for, who I am, so that I never have to turn around at any point and go, what did I say I could do? It should always be what I can actually do. Stay true to yourself. And honesty is really, really important in your success and in your career. And honesty with you is the most important part, of course, with everybody else around you. And even with things like I've often worked with customers. Of course, Jenny, you worked in support, but I still work with customers. And I've had times where I have had to give some pretty bad news to customers. I had one conversation where I had to give 3 pieces of really bad news to a customer on the phone. And I wasn't afraid to do it. I mean, we all knew nobody was going to like it, but I wasn't afraid to do it because I knew that that customer that I'd spoken to on and off with good news, bad news, and just chatting over the last 6 months or a year, I had never fibbed about what I could do. I'd never fibbed about what I would do for them or where I've come from or anything like that. So I built this relationship of trust with the customer so that when I came to them and I gave them their 3 pieces of bad news, whilst they weren't happy with it, they respected that what I was telling them was the truth, that I was honest with them, and that when I empathized with them, it was genuine. The honesty is a value that you can't really put a price on. And being honest to yourself means that you're going to be in a position where you can grow harder, as I call it, grow even better in your future, and be much more valuable to the people around you then from there as well. So I have a story about imposter syndrome that relates to this. So I love to, especially when I'm working with mentees that are working on presentation skills, I love to use this slide. If you scope through my Instagram all the way back, I don't post a whole lot, but this is on it there somewhere. And I always ask them, what do you see in this picture? And people will say, I see like really colorful slides. There's some damn big screens. That's a big room. There's a lot of people in there. They seem pretty engaged. Everyone's looking forward. Nobody appears to be on their phone. Person on the stage is looking kind of relaxed by the posture that's there. Must be a pretty big room. 2 mics set up front and back. They'll give me all these kind of practical descriptions around the room. What they do not see is what happened actually right at that moment and for about 5 or 10 minutes before it. So that's me on the stage. When I had longer, darker hair, you would know what color my hair would be from 1 week to the next. And about an hour before that, I was there with my sister. This was a Women in Tech event that was on in the convention center that I spoke about earlier. I was there with my sister, and about an hour beforehand, I went to the room that I was to speak in. So when I was given the name of the room that I was to speak in, I looked it up in the convention center so that I could see what the room looked like, get an idea of the feel for it before I got there, get it straight in my head of, where the monitor would be, how many people would sit where, which room I'd have to move around, all of that kind of stuff, just so that I felt ready for it when I got there. And when I got there, I went to the room to have a look. And when I went to the room, I was looking at the timetable outside, and my name wasn't on the timetable. And I was proper confused, but didn't think anything of it. Went off, did workshops, listened to other talks. And then about an hour before the talk, I wandered upstairs to see what was happening in the main room. So this is the main auditorium, seats about 1,200. And when I got to the main room, I looked at the timetable outside of that. And sure enough, there was my name on the timetable for the main room. What I didn't realize is that in the convention center in Dublin, so if you're ever going to speak in the convention center in Dublin, each floor, all of the rooms are named the same, but A, B, C, D, whichever. I did not know that. So when I searched it, looked at the room, clicked on the first one, thinking that was the only room of that name, I found the one that seated 200 people, and didn't realize that I was going to be in the main hall where there was 1,200 people. This was an hour beforehand. I have never had a truer imposter syndrome moment than that hour beforehand. I would like to say I didn't panic, but that'd be a flat out lie. So my sister was great. She was like, look, it is what it is. I've obviously been in theater years and years ago. I've done embarrassing things on stage. So this couldn't be, it was not going to be embarrassing, but I definitely had moments of panic where I thought, I'm going to be on a mic. Look at those screens. They're even bigger than me. They're huge, and things like that. When it came to going in, I was in denial for 55 minutes solid. Then I went into the room and I went to the tech at the back of the room and told them my name and said, you're supposed to be here getting mic'd up, getting ready to go. So then it was a bit of a flap and a panic. They were stringing a mic up the back of my shirt. I handed all of my stuff, my handbag and my cue cards and everything to my sister, who went off up to the front to be there. So I had a friendly face to look at. And then I walked up to the side of the stage. And as I was standing at the side of the stage, waiting to meet the lady who was going to introduce me, while hyperventilating and trying to look calm, I realized that I had given my cue cards to my sister. So here I was in the biggest room there with all these women that I so wanted to like me so badly. And I hadn't even got my cue cards to do my talk. The lady came down that was introducing us, Ruth was her name, brought me up on stage. I was given the clicker. I had never been mic'd up for something like that before. I had never even used the clicker before at that stage, let's not lie. But the clicker thankfully said forward, backwards. Clearly they were expecting people like me to be in a blind panic on the stage. Got on the stage. I think I spoke super fast and hyperventilated a little for the first 10 seconds, and then spotted my sister and a couple of other women who made some great eye contact and smiled and hence, like, why wouldn't you be involved in all things women and women in tech? Because we're just the best crowd of people. And then got over it. But the worst experience of imposter syndrome, right into the moment that I clicked the first slide, from the moment that they mic'd me up, I literally thought, this is a mistake. Somebody's going to come out and somebody's going to say, what are you doing here? But it wasn't at all. And I got up and it went well. And I do have a video link. I must download it and put it up on the YouTube page just to give you a giggle, because if you watch the first 10 seconds, you can see that clear panic. And then I got over it, and then it was fine then from there. But everybody does it. It doesn't matter how calm somebody seems or how many millions of people they've spoken in front of. Everybody has imposter syndrome. So whether you're sitting at your desk and you're in your very first job ever, or you're at the height of your career, this is something that everybody's going to feel. So worth. This is another big thing for me with worth. When I began mentoring, something I was really excited to get involved in, found some more time for that because COVID happened, which meant I suddenly didn't have to travel to the office. So I had 4 hours a day. Ooh, what will I do with that? So I got involved in mentoring. And I met many mentees who wanted to learn a technical thing or improve a skill with X, Y, and Z. And we ended up, over the time that we worked together, in about 90% of cases, working on people's self-worth. And it sounds, I say that like it's a little bit sad. It is a little bit sad that there aren't more skills and more tools at a younger age for people to feel their sense of self-worth when they become adults, or when they're in college and they're studying. Why aren't we doing classes that also teach them about how to own their own worth and own their own value from there too? That aside, it's one of these things that we work on quite a lot. So I have a few little kind of tips and maybe a little tiny challenge or two for people who want to work on this thing that are completely doable, absolutely doable from here. One of the things you hear a lot about when it comes to women in tech is that we do not apply for the jobs unless we tick all of the boxes. And it's so true. As a hiring manager, I would see CVs coming in from dozens and dozens of people. At the moment, we have an internship open, but the men will always apply regardless of whether they tick the boxes or not. In fact, I've had men apply for roles who have absolutely nothing that's relevant to the role that they're applying for, nothing, but they'll chance their arm just to see if you'll look. And as a general rule, we end up looking at their CV anyway. So they are getting some of the time, and they are sitting somewhere here back in my memory. So if I come across a role that is relevant to them, I might reach out to them. And we've done that in the past. And we always see less applicants from women. I'm heavily involved in all things women in tech, and even for roles within the company that I work for, or roles that are under my remit, that I specifically say are under my remit, I still only get 2 out of 24 that are female that apply. And the 2 out of 24 will tick all the boxes. I will never get women that will chance it. Now, I've had an experience where I worked with a mentee who was applying for a job, and she was saying, I'm not getting any responses. Nothing's really happening. And I had a look at it with her, and it turned out, I said, why are you applying for positions that are below or the same as where you're at? Why aren't you applying for positions that are up? I knew she wanted to get out of her job, but she was like, because I don't have all those skills. So we sat down and we worked through it, and it's all about how it's phrased, really. I explained some of the things to her, and she does have the skills. She just didn't always realize that's what they were called. So anyway, and with a little bit of gentle bullying and pushing, we got her to apply for 3 roles that she wanted in 3 companies that she liked that were up from where she currently was. She wasn't getting any responses from the roles that were the same level or lower, and couldn't understand why. I can see now as a hiring manager that's probably because she was overqualified, but she got responses from all 3. And 1 was a no, fair enough, you're going to get those, and 2 of them were a yes. So by taking the chance and applying for things that she didn't think she should apply for, she ended up in a position where she had to decide which of the 2 companies she wanted to work for, because both offers were on the table. Apply for the job. If you don't tick all the boxes, apply for the job. If you don't think you're qualified to apply for the job, then why do you think you're qualified to reject yourself from that job? Because that's what you're doing. If you don't apply for it, you're closing the door and you're making sure that you do not get that job. So apply for the damn job, all right? If you're not sure, ping me, ask me, and I will tell you to apply for the job. But get it in there. Let somebody else go, no, that's not for you, or you're not qualified, or they might even come back and say, look, if you studied such and such, then you'll be in a better position to apply for it, but you have nothing to lose. Apply for the job. If what I see, oh yeah, the LinkedIn challenge. I know I'm nearly out of time. I promise I'm nearly done. I have a LinkedIn challenge for people. I always say that if you're using your LinkedIn and you're connecting with your mother and your great Aunt Sally and your friend from school, stop. Go through your LinkedIn, take out all of those relatives and friends from your LinkedIn, ditch them. That's what you've got your Facebook for, or your Twitter, your Instagram, or your WhatsApp group, family groups, things like that. Get rid, because they're affecting the algorithm for the news feed and such that you have on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really great profile once you get smart about how you use it. I always consider LinkedIn as my win book. So when I'm trying to establish my worth, or when I'm having moments where I'm like, oh my God, that day went to hell, and I want to remind myself of my achievements, what I'll do is I'll go through my LinkedIn, and I will always make sure that any job that I've had in the past has some pointers on things that I achieved while I was in that role, not just the work that I did. Everybody knows, like, if you're a support person, that you take support cases, that you close them, that you take phone calls. But do they know that you achieved 110% of your caseload every week on week? Do they know that you were responsible for dealing with cases for customers above I don't know, 1 million renewal value? Do they know that your skills are huge, that you've got, like, they go across multiple different technologies rather than being specific to one particular area? They're achievements that I've had in that role, and they should be on my LinkedIn profile. They're not on mine, they're just examples. But I also put anything else that I'm involved in, voluntary or otherwise, and put those things up. It makes me different to everybody else. Anyone can do the click, here's the job description, click, here's the job that I've done on their LinkedIn profile. That doesn't make you individual, and you were brought in as an individual. So tell people what it is that you've done that has been a success within that. Excuse me. It's important that when you look at your LinkedIn, that you see the things that you've achieved in the past, that it becomes that, because if you see it as an achievement, then the people who are looking at your profile for jobs will also see it as an achievement, and keep that in mind there. I have loads and loads of tips and loads of things that I could help people with on the LinkedIn side. So if you're ever looking for any assistance on that, I have no problem. Reach out to me and let me know. One of the things that I was going to talk about was salary negotiation, but I might leave that to another time. I know it's important for people. Actually, no, I'll do it quick. All right. So salary negotiation, in the last company that I worked in, it was in one of my very, very first jobs. So I was on 21,000 euro or pound. It was a good while ago anyway. And it was my first time for a review. There was a chap on my team who was leaving that day. Me and him got on really well. And because he was leaving, he says to me, what are you going in for? What are you going to ask for? And I said, I'm going to ask for 23,000. If I get 23,000, I'm happy. I have never negotiated salary before. I have never had a conversation about a review before. And he said, why would you do that? Ask for more. He said, because even if you ask for 23, they might give you 22, and then you're not getting what you want. He said, ask for more. Go in there and ask them for 29,000. And I was like, why would I do that? But I was also very green and didn't know how to negotiate. So I thought, you know what? I've nothing to lose. This is my first time going in. Maybe this is how it's done. So I went in and I asked for 29,000, and I came out with 26. So in that ballpark, that was a significant difference. And I was hopeful to get 23, but got 26. They're the way you should negotiate your salary, whether you're coming into a new role or whether you're negotiating in your current role. Always ask for more than you think, more than you want, or more than you think you should get, and let them turn you down. Don't you start deciding that you deserve less. Ask for it from there. So things you can do: promote the women that are in your network, promote the women that you see on your LinkedIn feed, congratulate them, hurrah them. And when you see events that are on like this, promote them all over your social media. There's only way we're going to make a change is if we blanket cover everybody's feeds with all the things that we're up to. Get involved in mentoring. So important. If you feel like you're not in a position to mentor, then become a mentee. If you've got any experience at all and you can share as a mentor, then go for that. Connect with other women everywhere. Women are fantastic. When you connect with them, they are supportive. There's nothing quite like it. I have sisters, but they don't work in the same career as me, but they're still some of my greatest fans as such. And then share. When you see things that are coming up, share it again all over your social media. Share people's successes. Share your love for things that you're involved in. Make sure that everybody can see that we are making noise, because we are. And then that's it. If you want to connect with me, there's my stuff. I'll put it into the session 2 chat for anybody that does want to connect. I think I'm probably most active on the LinkedIn side of things. I'm a bit slow on the other two, just trying to find time to do it. But yeah, hopefully that was useful for some of you today. And yeah, it was great fun being here. Hey, Jessica.
My gosh, it was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Really a genuine thank you. You know, the best part I think of having these wonderful talks, Jennifer, and then being able to use Discord is like we get to like talk with you. We're like, yes, yes.
Right.
So it's fabulous. A lot of great discussion and some real truth and vulnerability on the Discord. Thank you so much, genuinely. This is a wonderful talk. I really hope people come back and watch this. Very inspiring and motivating, and yet incredibly genuine.
Cool.
I
I'm
we
going to
have
hop over into the Discord chat for a bit. If anybody has any questions or they want to have a chat about it, I'll be in there anyway if anyone's there. Okay.
Oh, absolutely, and feel free to head over to the 24-hour happy hour too if you want to just have a voice talk. Um,
Thanks.
it's funny, I think not so many people over there, but it's great. We have. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. We'll
You're
catch up
welcome.
later.
Take care.
Thanks. So everybody, we have a lot going on today. Our second half of the 24 hours that we are on now. I was just getting started. It is around 6 a.m. here outside of DC, and I've now had my coffee. So I'd like to explore Discord real quick with you guys, you girls and guys. If you will, if you are just joining the chat, make sure you visit the Tell Us About Yourself. This is incredibly important because it unlocks areas of Discord for you. So go in there and make sure you're filling out the Tell Us About Yourself, particularly if you're not seeing things that you think you should be seeing on Discord. If you need help, go to the Need Help. Somebody will reach out and answer your questions. And we want this to be a really safe place for you guys. And we're doing our best to moderate, but sometimes things slip through. So if you see issues, please report them and at the report issues channel, and we'll do our best to address it. If you are just getting started on Discord, you are not alone. I would say probably 80% of those joining us on Discord for this event, this is the first time that they have used Discord. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's always good to have kind of a quick 101. We've put some videos in the how to use Discord area that you can take a look at. There's a shop channel because you can't have a woman's event without great merch. So there's a clothing line, there's some coffee mugs and wine coolers and things like that. So do go over to shop. Proceeds go to the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. And of course, the prize zone. There are random prizes going on. First and second place of all the Capture the Flags get a jersey, the Wicked6 beautiful jersey, as well as some other gifts. And we're just doing some random giveaways as well. So definitely engage, don't be shy. And a really good way to break the ice, if you will, and get started in sharing is to go over to, you'll notice there's a couple of different channels that are set up for you to share, let's say, your favorite books on cybersecurity. Some really good shares out there that you can read and perhaps add to your Kindle list. Favorite podcast or influencers that you follow. Obviously, we're big fans here at Wicked6 of Loop, Cyberwire, and Jax's Outpost. We also, a call out to cyber insecurity, simply cyber, and there's some really great other ones. I'm hoping you guys are sharing. And then this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to meet other women. So even if they're not online when you're online, go over to share your social handles. Try to connect with all the ladies that have shared their handles previous to you and share yours. This is a great opportunity to build your network and build that algorithm that Jennifer was just sharing with us. And of course, we've got our meme corner and several channels set up for various different languages. If we need to open up a channel, just go over to Need Help and make the recommendation. We'll see what we can do. Now, all right, we're going to continue with session 2. I do want to say one more thing. There are about 8 game platforms provided for your ability to have fun. You can dabble, go into any of them and just try them out. Maybe you don't want to dedicate several hours. You can focus in on one. It's all up to you. Don't look at this as being highly competitive. Look at this more as your ability to try your hand at various different platforms. Um, Big kudos to the platform providers for providing these at no cost. Many of these have been leveraged before. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to work together on this. We've noticed throughout the 24 hours that people have been going into the audio and being able to just kind of walk through them. So definitely try that. So with that, why don't we take a look at some of those platforms? All right, fabulous. Okay, for our next speaker, we have